All right, well, we just watched Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Captain America 2. Saw it here in 3D, and the way this show works is we do a really quick summary of whether we like the movie or not, who we think might like it, who we think might not like it, to give you kind of an overview of what we thought, and then if you're interested in hearing more of our thoughts, we'll get into a longer discussion, but that discussion may include some spoilers, so just be forewarned. I think the general consensus was that we liked this movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was, you know, a lot like what I had heard about this movie was that it's more of a little bit more espionage than just a straight up superhero movie, and that was definitely true. It's not like a ticking clock mystery sort of espionage movie. It's more of a, you know, who's going to double cross who and how deep does the secret go kind of a plot line. But it works, and it's nice to see them doing something different instead of just another, you know, fish out of water superhero story kind of thing. Like Thor, the second Thor movie, I think it's actually better than the first one. I think it's better than the first Captain America movie, even without Tim Roth, which any movie with Tim Roth should be better, but somehow they pulled that off. But anyway, that's my overview. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, it was definitely, for me, it's definitely a popcorn movie. I thought some of the storyline was a little bit hokey, but it was definitely enjoyable. I was never, like, bored, but there was a few moments where I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and since the last big Marvel movie I really saw was the Avengers, at least to begin with, it felt like a smaller story, which it kind of is, because it's hard to top that. But as it progressed, like, I really enjoyed the scope kind of opened up, and it's fun. It's my main thing I'd say about it's just a fun movie, so, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was fun, although I also thought it was dark. I thought it was probably the darkest of all of the most recent sort of Marvel Cinema Universe movies. It was darker than Thor, darker than Iron Man, darker than Avengers. It reminded me a lot, Dale, when you said sort of a spy movie, it reminded me a lot of a like a Bourne movie, like a Jason Bourne movie, only with superheroes, basically. I also thought it was interesting because, you know, the Avengers, it was the big team-up movie where you have all the main Marvel heroes coming together to form a team. But Marvel, they used to, particularly like in the 70s and 80s, do a lot of like two-hero team-up type things, like Spider-Man team-up, or, you know, I think there was even just the Marvel team-up. It was always two heroes. And this really felt like a two-hero or even three-hero team-up movie. It really felt not so much even just a Captain America movie, but it was like a Captain America and Black Widow movie. Because she had a huge role in this. And I mean, she was in almost as much as he was, and it was really, in some ways, I mean, you learned even more about her than you did about him, even though you didn't learn a whole lot about either of them. But
which I think is smart because, I mean, we're probably not going to get a Black Widow movie.
Right.
And
although, I read today that Marvel has their movies planned out until 2028.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, I would, you know, Captain America got a full movie, and you know, Black Widow's probably not going to get one.
She-Hulk had better get one.
But it's a good way to expand on her character for sure. So that's, I mean, basically it's a positive review. If you're interested in seeing it, you're probably already on your way to the theater to see it. If you're a fan of the Marvel Universe, certainly it's a no-brainer to go and check this one out. It's not like, you know, if Captain America is your least favorite, or if it's, you know, a movie you're not super excited to see, I wouldn't say it's a absolute must-see for fans of the genre. But it's good. It's a decent movie. So this next part, we're going to deal a little bit more in the story and kind of talking through some different points of the plot. One thing I want to avoid, I hate it when you watch a review and people are just pedantic about unrealistic things in a superhero movie. It's like, okay,
how did they fly?
Yeah, how did that happen? So having said that, there are some things that, you know, there's some pieces of this plot that just sort of, I think a lot of what they do with the dialogue is great. Like, a lot of the sort of way they turn dialogue on its head is funny. It sort of inherits a little bit of that feel from Avengers. and even without the Tony Stark character in it, there's some good, like, smarmy
One-liners and
lines.
stuff,
And
yeah.
This has
things
got to
like
be
that.
the funniest Marvel movie without Tony Stark in it.
Absolutely, yeah,
Right.
without question. And so I liked that part of it a lot. There were some things where there's so many characters in this movie that I had a hard time keeping track of. Like, I got to where I could recognize faces, but I wasn't really on a first name basis, I felt like, with all the major characters, which was kind of a problem. There was also sort of an issue with the bad guy in the movie was sort of it's sort of a coup from within type of a spy story, and so they didn't sort of like in Iron Man 3 they had the Mandarin, which was like their fake out
Right.
bad guy. In this movie, there's not really like a fake out bad guy per se. So when they do introduce the actual bad guys, to me they felt kind of half-hearted because they had to play on both sides of that fence. They had to look like they were doing the right thing when they were actually doing the wrong thing. And it was more of an idealistic thing than
You could argue,
just,
though, that thematically that's like one of the big themes of the movie. Good guys doing bad things and bad guys doing good things, and
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
thin line between that.
and it's very much like I wouldn't say I mean, like, I can see where like you'd make the comparison to the Bourne movies, but it's a lot like the idea of if we get a weapon so powerful that it's sort of like, I mean, there's a lot of movies that are like this, but like that Call of Duty Black Ops game, like that was the plot of that, was that like in the near future we'd have technology like drones, but more powerful, and if those ever fell into the wrong hands, we're just toast.
Good. Yeah.
Or it's kind of the old Star Trek question: if you could go back and kill Hitler, would you? But sort of on a much, much, much larger scale.
Which I think is what Captain America is about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's very much, the Cold War and World War II are sort of his bread and butter. That's sort of his world.
I found it very interesting how they modernized the whole Nazi theme, which I wasn't expecting that, the organizational thing. I don't know how much spoilers we should give, but I found that interesting how they made it present day.
That's part of the first movie. I mean, it's his past
So like the organization within the organization kind of thing, and the present day, and how they kept that relevant.
Yeah.
Still his struggle.
Well, and also I think if they had called it something else, it would have lost something. I think it's sort of like, to put it in front of a mass audience. I mean, granted, Captain America did fight the Nazis, and so that makes perfect sense within his world. But if you had the same plot with different characters, and you didn't make it the Nazis, like, who is it? Like, who do you universally just say is the bad guys?
Yeah. Universally despised.
And that's kind of been, and it's one of these things that it makes sense in the Captain America universe, and I'm not bashing this movie at all for using it. But it's one of those things where, like, since the Cold War ended, it's really hard to make a spy movie because there really isn't.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't parity between us and some other organization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked it a lot. I thought that just as a comic book person who reads a lot of comic books but doesn't know a lot about the Winter Soldier character in the comic books, but at least the kind of big twist in the movie, if you know anything about comic books, then you probably know what the big twist is, and we'll see that coming. So that didn't have a lot of emotional effect on me because I kind of knew it going in, and I'm guessing that even if you don't know it from the comic books, you probably will guess it pretty early on. So there's something that they kind of purport to be a twist, but it's not really. But it's got some interesting things going on with just how basically what they're doing to the cinematic Marvel universe now. I mean, there's kind of a big thing that happens near the end that I think is probably going to affect pretty much everything going on, including the Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, and that tie-in is something that it'll be interesting to see how they play with that. I do like I was kind of talking about before we started rolling, like with the number of characters, and there were people that you know, like the woman from the bridge of the ship on the Avengers movie, like she shows up and they don't really reintroduce her character.
Maria Hill.
And then there was another character that the Falcon. I felt like they do a really good job of like giving him stuff to say and stuff to do and play off of things, but they don't really come out and say, here's who this guy is and you know what his name is and what his
the character himself. I thought he had a good setup. I mean, because throughout the movie and he's got kind of an interesting character, and then at one point he just kind of drops, oh, blah blah blah, I did this during the war, and they're kind of like, great, you're gonna help us, and then next thing you know,
bada bing bada boom,
there he is, a superhero.
yeah, well, it's like Don Cheadle in the Iron Man movie, you know?
yeah
it's kind of the same thing, but I think like with him they built it more up and it's like, oh, he's this guy now, and so that part of it kind of was kind of hard to follow. The other thing, like you said, you kind of saw it coming, or that you sort of made sense of it. Who's the Winter Soldier? Is that Captain America? Is that other guy?
It's the other guy. Yeah, they call him the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I think they only give him that name like one time in the movie, but because basically names that you read in comic books of superheroes are stupid for the most part, and so when they actually try to put them onto the screen in the movie, you don't use those names very much. It's kind of like the costumes are stupid, which is why every chance you get, you don't have Captain America in a mask, you don't have Tony Stark in a mask, you just have them with their normal faces so that you see
as people.
Yeah, it's because you don't want to see the mask.
Well, and something I really did like about this movie was that it's an actor movie. You know, there's performances in this movie. There's a lot of people in this movie. Most of the action sequences are choreographed fight scenes. The first sequence with Captain America on the ship, it's like a ninja movie.
Yeah, very much.
And that, I like that in an age of, we could do it all in CG, but we're going to do...
I was impressed. I mean, the bullets came later, but that first opening, that first action scene, I was impressed for the lack of gunfire. It was more like ninja stuff. It was more stealthy, and that was refreshing.
I was surprised that, like, Captain America in the dark, I like a lot better than Captain America in the daytime. Like, he's more of, like, this ninja Batman kind of character.
Yeah.
And when you put him out in the broad daylight, it just reveals how silly the premise of a guy wrapped in the stars and stripes running around with a shield is.
Yeah.
When you boil it right down, it's like you can only make that look so cool.
Yeah.
And if you turn the lights out, it works.
I never really felt that except one time when he was talking. It was Robert Redford, right?
Yeah.
Which was really cool. They were talking in an office, and it was full daylit office, and then he puts his shield on and walks out the room. I was like, oh.
I had this like running, like, you know, like I'm like coming up with the riff tracks in my head while I was watching parts of it. Robert Redford has to stand by a window. It's part of his contract. There always needs to be windows directly in the shot with Robert Redford. He's either... Like, his entry scene is him and his reflection against a window. A computer-generated window, but a window. And then, like, all throughout the rest of it, like, you see him at his house, and he's walking down this long hallway of windows.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. Like, maybe he hates Max. I don't get it. Like, he's just always next to windows.
Because you can see through him. It gets thematic.
Okay.
I solved the movie.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. This is a good movie. I enjoyed it.
We saw it in 3D. Any thoughts on that?
I thought that, you know, as far as 3D goes, there was nothing about this movie that just screamed, I've got to be in 3D. There was no, like...
I thought so, too.
Amazing, cool...
In fact, I thought even more than that. I thought a lot... It was obviously not shot for 3D, because the action scenes did not sit 3D at all. In fact, sometimes I just literally took my glasses off. It felt better, because, like, if you could take more in... Then...
There were a couple of shots... there was a shot where, like, an arm reaches through the water and grabs in... but... You know, the other part of it is, I mean, we saw it on a fairly small 3D screen, and that
That's a good point.
That factors into it. The larger your screen is, the better the 3D effects and the field of vision seems to be. But field of view is another good thing in this movie, is that something that really sort of irks me about watching some 3D movies is that they sort of make decisions almost as a 2D filmmaker to put things in focus and put other things out of focus. And so sometimes you'll be watching a 3D movie and it'll be focusing back and forth like this.
And for a second you're like, well, what?
And it's in the same scene and it's like, I can't look at this guy anymore. Like, this guy's still in the frame.
But
why can't I look at him?
But,
And with this movie, they did a really good job of, if there was someone talking on the screen in frame, it was like things in the foreground that would go by that were blurred out, or things that were there. It was shot very close to the action a lot of the time, but not so much that you couldn't tell what was going on. Like, they did a good job of establishing, here's where these people are, and then kind of zooming in for a couple of hits and then pulling back. I didn't feel like it didn't have the whole shaky cam, I don't know what's happening right now feel to it. But there's a lot of, I noticed it at first and I just thought, it's just because it's Scarlett Johansson's butt, that's why I'm noticing it. But then it became, no, it's everybody's butt. Because of the way they were shooting things in, if someone was knocked down, the person that was still standing in the foreground had like an extreme butt close up.
You know, I will admit I didn't notice a lot of butts in the movie. But I'm sure you're right.
When he picks up Captain America out of the water at the end, there's like kind of a slam in like shot like that, and it's all, I mean, none of it's like gratuitous, again, like it's just, and I thought at first, like,
stylistic,
because like in Avengers it's like Scarlett Johansson's butt, the movie.
Well, there was that whole controversy with Avengers, like with the poster and everything, where it was like everybody was very heroic except for Scarlett Johansson was like contorting her body into this very unrealistic pose. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were just.
Well, they had the budget for both cheeks on screen, so they were making use of that.
She was great in this movie, by the way.
She was great.
Yeah.
I thought that Samuel L. Jackson, even though he didn't have as big a part as I might have expected, I thought that this was probably...
Really?
Yeah, actually, he wasn't in quite as much as I would have expected, just from the previews and knowing that he was going to be in this one. But I thought that this was probably his best role, and probably in some ways they gave him the most to do.
It did.
Because they got, without going into it too much, they got him out from just like sitting behind a desk and ordering people around. He was actually really in on the action.
Well,
big time.
People who are perfect are not interesting. People that are invulnerable are not interesting. This is why, like, I don't find Superman interesting as a character. I don't find, the way a lot of movies portray, these sort of Christ-like people is completely perfect. They always say the right thing.
Yeah.
And Fury has been one of those characters that's always right and always has the smart ass comeback and all that. But he's never been vulnerable and he's never been really humanized. And I think this movie he finally gets to grow
to the point of even taking his eye patch off.
Yeah.
Did you guys catch there was a subtle Pulp Fiction reference with Fury? I can't say it without going into a spoiler here, but there is a Pulp Fiction thing. If you're familiar with his Pulp Fiction character, there's kind of a tie.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I kind of picked up on it.
It's near the end.
It's hard to watch anything with him in it and not think of that.
Classic.
And just, anytime something is going wrong around him, just thinking, that is it. Yeah. I have had it. With these shields on this hovering hella thing. That's our review of the movie. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
If you like the movie, if you like our review, please like the video, please subscribe, and check out the written reviews over at DaleMaxfield.com. Thanks for watching.
Bye.